Hello everybody, good morning. Welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and we've got another deal confirmed for you this morning. Manchester United and INEOS are cooking up something very exciting. We'll get into that. We're also going to talk to you about an update on Zirkzee and also from Ugarte. A bit of an injury concern about Ugarte. I've seen the images, very, very bad, but there is some positive news there around that. Also, Zirkzee will be leaving Bologna. That's basically been confirmed by a director, but where are we with that transfer? We've got some updates on that as well. But I think the most exciting thing is, and I know that you love this football club, and I know that you're interested in how this football club is run. And what we cannot do this morning is dismiss the enormity of this deal that has been done overnight and confirmed this morning by David Ornstein and Fabrizio Romano again. So Christian Vivell will be joining Manchester United, and he will be joining Manchester United in an interim role, a short-term role, as our director of recruitment. His work permit is done, and he's obviously worked at Chelsea, and he will be returning to the Premier League to work as Manchester United's director of recruitment. This is absolutely massive. What we're looking at here at Manchester United is short-term, quick moves to make us active now in this transfer window. And I think active now is exactly the words that many of us have craved for transfer window after transfer window after transfer window. And if anybody doesn't see the enormity of this, then I don't think they're understanding what it is INEOS have constructed and what it means for the playing staff and everything else at Manchester United. They have basically constructed an amazing, on paper, recruitment and committee and running of the club team that is absolutely incredible. Now, we'll talk about who Christian Vivell is and what he's all about, but effectively, this is a guy, he's almost like a potential mini Ranić without the coaching, because he started at Salzburg, he was at Leipzig, he's got that multi-club feeder club, whatever you want to be, experience. He was, I think he was head of scouting at Salzburg. Then he was like technical director at Leipzig. We'll talk about what happened at Chelsea, because some people are starting to see that as a negative. He was only there for about 8 months. But yes, very, very good record. I think anybody that's worked at Salzburg and Leipzig, it's like anyone who's played at Salzburg and Leipzig, you know that they've played the game in the sense of modern football and how it works in relation to talent progression. And if you think about Salzburg, I mean, look, if you look at somebody, Erling Haaland was at Salzburg, wasn't he? I know he didn't go Salzburg to Leipzig. Sesko's done that, of course, but it's very, 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 very technical and advanced recruitment. They're almost like the European Brighton, really. In fact, Brighton probably looked at them. So very, very exciting. He was at Chelsea until a year ago when they got rid of him. We'll talk about what that is about at the moment. But look, he's being brought in the short term anyway. This is not necessarily a long term. And I think what you've got to look at before we talk about Vivell and what it will mean over the next few weeks, because what INEOS are basically doing here is, Dan Ashworth starts yesterday, Vivell comes in today. This is all about this summer transfer window. This is all about now, what can we do now to make difference now for the future that is there in front of us. This is not about 3-year plans, although we know it will be a 3-year plan. This is about let's do things now. And what does he come in with? What repertoire of experience does he come in with? And if you look at what INEOS have done in this incredibly short period of time, if you look at what well, look, it might be slightly different, but if you think about what our recruitment committee looks like at the moment, or, the core footballing side hierarchy, Sir Jim Radcliffe, under him, you've got people like Jean-Claude Blanc, who was at PSG and Juventus, and Sir David Brailsford. Then you've got CEO Barada. Then parachuted off him, you've got Jason Wilcox as the technical director, and you've got Dan Ashworth as the director of football. You've now got, under him on a short-term notice, you've got Christian Vivell, who comes in as, I think he's coming in as the director of recruitment. And then you've got Erik ten Hag, and as we know, Van Nistelrooy and René Hek coming in as well. So you've got this, we've gone from Erik ten Hag on his own with Murta and Arnold, which we don't rate, to a team of, look, Blanc, Brailsford, Barada, Wilcox, Ashworth, now Vivell, Ten Hag, Ruud van Nistelrooy. Heck, you've got 9 people. And that doesn't even include people that may well be staying, Sir Jim Ratcliffe. It's a very impressive selection of recruitment, and it fits in with something so many of you've spoken about before, about the structure. And to build it that quick is very, very impressive. And I think when I look at that now, I go, look, there is absolutely no excuse to go and give Leicester £80 million for Harry Maguire. There is absolutely no excuse to let David De Gea go on a free and spend £50 million on a goalkeeper that may not be as good. Those sort of decisions now, if we will make those mistakes, but if we make those mistakes now, there is a core group of expertise where you know that decision has bounced around that room and a number of experts' heads before they've come to that conclusion. And they will make mistakes. They will make mistakes. But I think that building a core like that means that we'll make less mistakes. And I'm very, very excited about it. Now, Christian Vivell, I just want to go through a little bit about who he is, because it is a really exciting recruitment by Manchester United. He's coming in on a short-term deal. This is about being active now in this transfer window. I've mentioned that he started off at Salzburg, and he was the head of scouting at Salzburg, involved in the likes of recruitment of Patson Daka, Erling Haaland, Adeyemi. So that was his job at Salzburg. He's then gone to be, obviously it's part of the same Red Bull group. He's then gone from Salzburg to Leipzig, where he was the technical director there. And obviously we already know, if you know anything about football, if you've been a technical director at Leipzig, their reputation in football over the last decade especially, obviously Rangnick had an involvement there. If you've been a technical director there, that's a great thing to have on your CV. He then left to go to Chelsea in December 2022, but he left Chelsea in the summer of last year. So some people around social media, it's a high pedigree, definitely, Stuart. So some people are saying, well, if he's so good, why did he leave Chelsea? I think that when you are assessing Chelsea Football Club under Todd Boehly, I would not read that book. I just don't think it makes any... I don't think it damages you or enhances you, is my opinion. I think what he's done at Salzburg, what he's done at Leipzig, he's still in his mid-30s. He's got a very good reputation in the game. And if INEOS want to bring him in, he will have been recommended by either Blanc or Barada or Ashworth. He will be coming into this club because he is best in class in the consideration of what they can get hold of. And that will do for me. So I don't really care what happened at Chelsea with Vivell, because, all right, he was only there for a few months. I think I know what happened, and I'll give you my opinion. But I think Manchester United have gone for him because he's the best in class in a short term. There may be a bit of doubt, which is why they've given him a short-term deal to see how he works. Because the only problem he might have is, he's been a technical director at Leipzig. He's got Wilcox, he's got Barada, he's got Blanc, he's got Ten Hag, he's got Ashworth, and he might come in and he might not work with us, and it might not work for him. So I think a short-term deal, you don't... Basically, what happened at Chelsea and why it didn't work out at Chelsea is because Chelsea are chaotic. We've seen that with their recruitment, and we've seen that with their manager sackings. Chelsea is not a stable environment to work. So I think, first of all, him not being at Chelsea for very long doesn't necessarily reflect badly on him. We all know Chelsea are chaotic. And certainly when you look at the recruitment structure at Chelsea, it's too many cooks. They've got Winstanley, who I think they brought in from Brighton. They've got another guy, I forget his name, someone in the chat will know, who they brought in from Monaco. They obviously brought in Vivell from Leipzig. I think there's you've got Todd Boehly getting involved. So, Chelsea brought him in with a big, oh, look, this is amazing, and Chelsea fans were very excited about it. It all went wrong, in my opinion, because they've got too many cooks at Chelsea. I'm not bothered what went on at Chelsea. He comes to Man United on a short-term deal, and I'm very, very excited about it. So if you're just tuning in, another big development. We said there'd be deals this week. We didn't necessarily think it would be all in the technical room, on the board, etc. But I'm happy with that. We can't just buy Paul Pogba every summer anymore. We can't just spend £90 million on one player and say, let's go and win the league. We all know the way the modern game works. Man City have proven this. We've got to build a structure so that if we do replace a manager or we do buy a player and it doesn't work out, we've got this amazing structure above. And we need to be the envy of the world. And the more expertise you've got in that football club and the more you surround yourself with expertise, the better. And if you've done any homework on Sir Jim Ratcliffe, this is a guy that's exceptionally a big winner in life and a billionaire. And the reason he's done that is not because Sir Jim Ratcliffe has got the answer to everything, whether it's, Formula One, cycling, football, petrochemicals, whatever he's put his money into. It's because Sir Jim Ratcliffe is a hard-working, clever man who surrounds himself with expertise in the field that he's going to work in, and gets people in who know what they're doing, and he absorbs their knowledge like a sponge, and that is what he's doing here. He is bringing in the Baradas, he is bringing in the Blancs, he is bringing in the Vivells. This is what he is doing. And I think it's really exciting, because the big thing I take away from this, and some people will say, oh, it's just a recruitment director coming in on a short-term deal. The big thing for me is active now. We could have waited and done this next summer. We've already got Barada, we've already got Ashworth, we've already got Wilcox. We could have waited and done this next summer. Bringing him in now, I think, is about being active now. What is he going to come in and do now? And every club we go and speak to now, we're going in with real expertise. Why shout? Where are the player signings? We've signed players for years with no success. Let's focus on fixing one thing we've lacked for years, says Larry. This is all good, but who are we signing, says Dennis G. I don't think you've listened, have you? Shouldn't this have been sorted well before the window, or is it just another July the 1st thing? I think July the 1st will be a factor in a lot of the things that we're doing here. Whacking, welcome to the Members Club. And the great thing about bringing in Vivell is that we've probably been speaking to him for quite a while. We've probably been prepping him for quite a while, which means he's probably been prepping us for quite a while. He hasn't been in work for a year. I think there was some gardening leave with Chelsea. So I think that, like Barada, like Ashworth, I think Vivell has probably been spent the last few months writing notes about this, that and the other. And all that is now going to go straight into Man United's boardroom. And I think, we're going to be really active now over the next few weeks. And I'm just very excited about it. I'm very excited about it because I think it's that active now thing for me, but it's that expertise. Like I say, when I look at the recruitment team of United now, I'm over the moon that Ten Hag's staying. I'm over the moon that Heck and Rude are coming in. I'm over the moon that Barada's going to be there. Dan Ashworth's now there. Jason Wilcox has already come in. We're bringing in this Vivell. We know that we've got Blanc on the board already. There's just so much expertise in that football club. It's like Blink, and you've gone from, you've got an amazing talent in Jason Wilcox has gone from Man City to Southampton to us. You've got Barada, who's an amazing talent from Man City. You've got Dan Ashworth, who many people think is a very good director of football. Okay, they've all got to prove it. You've got Blanc, who basically masterminded the recovery of Juventus and then has been at PSG for 10 years. There's just so much expertise there for Manchester United now. So yeah, very excited about it. And I just wanted to cover that in the first few minutes because I know that we spend a lot of time over the last few years talking about director of football, sporting director. This is how this club do it. This is how that club does it. It would be remiss, arrogant and wrong of us not to just acknowledge what INEOS have done and are trying to do at Manchester United in this very short period of time, because we've longed to be like the Man Cities and the Liverpools and the Arsenal. We've wanted that expertise in our football club, and no Manchester United fan can sit there and moan anymore, whether it's me or you or anybody else. We can't moan anymore that we haven't put a structure in place above our manager. Jose Mourinho spoke about this and said, I've been at other clubs where I've got people above me who are experts. I'm at Manchester United and there's only me. And I think, for the first time in a long time, we have that structure now. And we will, as fans now, as a community as well, be reacting to stories with that expertise that is going to change the landscape of the last 10 years for the next 10 years, hopefully. So really exciting stuff. Okay, we have got stuff to bring you around transfers as well, and I expect that that's going to go through the roof now. So make sure you smash a like and subscribe, because I think things are going to change massively. And to the person who said, why didn't we get this done sooner? Is it because July the 1st? We haven't just rung Christopher Vivell up last night and gone, do you fancy coming in on a short-term thing? We'll have been speaking to him for ages about, do you want this job? And he will have been doing his notes for ages, just the same as Dan Ashworth. Look, Dan Ashworth's garden probably looks fantastic, but he will have been taking notes in his own time about what he wants to do at Manchester United. And I think it's just going to be an amazing period for the next few weeks to see what Man United do in the transfer window. Look, I'm not going to make any promises about what we're going to do, but with all this expertise coming in, and the fact that they know they're coming in, Barada as well has known he's coming in for 6 months. What are they coming in with? Ideas, creativity, solutions. Very, 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 very exciting. I think we will see some transfers of players we've never heard of this summer. Let's make our own Elises. I'm excited as Tony. Well, yeah, I mean, look, when you look at someone like Christopher Vivell, and you look at his experience at Salzburg, and you talk about the Adeyemis, Okafor is another one. I mean, I'm not saying they've all been successful, but, you know, Daka, Haaland. You look at those types of players and where they came from to come in. This is exciting. I've always said this, and I know you are the same. I want to see us tapping into the South American market. I don't need to sign Paul Pogba, 89 million, Jadon Sancho, 75 million to be happy. I'm more than happy with, there's a lad from the Ivory Coast who was, you know, he's 18. He's played 50 games over the last year and a half for Nantes. He's going to be a fantastic player. Oh, we've bought him for 10 million. I love all that. I'll love all that. I want that. You know, that's what good recruitment's all about. Lazy recruitment. You can do it every now and again, but anybody can go, oh, he's a good player from Leicester. There's 80 million pounds and 190 grand a week. Let's see if it works. Anybody can do that. But using that 80 million to go and buy, you know, 3 or 4 up-and-coming players that are well scouted, that's where the likes of Ashworth and Barada and Wilcox and Vivell will be worth their salary. And that's what we want to see. Recruitment that's sustainable. Younger players that become our superstars. That's what we need to see at Manchester United. Boomers Club, welcome to the Members Club. When you hear younger fans saying we want actual signings, what hits you is that for the last decade, our club has been run by minds of 15-year-olds to Space Oddie. Animes, thank you, welcome to the Members Club. Larry says, why shout, where are the player signings? We've signed players for years with no success. Let's focus on fixing those things. Fantastic. Look, get your thoughts in. Right, let's talk about some transfer news because it is a news show. We've got a couple of big updates coming in, actually. I mean, I'm very excited about what we've just spoken about. Get your comments in below. Is this positive news for you? But you know what? It is July the 2nd. People will want transfers to start coming in, and they are going to happen. I'm going to start off with the Ugarte story because Shadows just said Ugarte injury. Look, I don't watch the Copa America. I was burnt out by the Euros yesterday. I felt like crying, let alone Ronaldo. It was a terrible game. I'm looking forward to Austria-Turkey tonight. I think it's going to be a classic Ranyuk ball against a very good Turkish side. I think that's going to be a great game. Low-key, I think it's probably the game of the knockouts. So, you know, I'm looking forward to some more of that tonight. But I didn't see the Uruguay game. Apparently, they won 1-0. I think they were playing Canada or something. But there's a few images going around this morning of Ugarte's knee basically doing things a leg shouldn't do. So this morning, a lot of people saying horrible injury for Ugarte. That's probably the end of that. Remember, we were linked to Alvarez. Edson Alvarez, who's at West Ham, formerly of Ajax, he went and got a bad injury for Mexico. So, yeah, there's a lot of people worried about that injury. However, he did get substituted, but after the game, he said, I was scared at the time, but luckily it isn't that serious. So, Uruguay have won 3 out of 3 in the group stage. They'll be playing a quarter-final on Sunday. So, he's absolutely fine. Ugarte's absolutely fine. He's certainly not in a serious situation. So, that hasn't wrecked any potential signing for Manchester United. So, look, anybody concerned about the injury, I think it's been slow coming through clarity on that because obviously that was played last night and they'll all be asleep now. But effectively, there's a lot of people putting out a picture of a very bad image of Ugarte. But in his own words, after the game, he was stood doing an interview saying, I was scared at the time, and you would be if you saw the images, but luckily it's not that serious. So, yeah, he looks like he'll be fine. In relation to Manchester United, really significant update from Fabrizio Romano, and I think this goes back to the structure we're talking about Man United. Obviously, we've got Jean-Claude Blanc, who is on the board above Barada. He's up there with Sir David Brailsford. He's on the board of Manchester United, so he's high in the club. He's above Barada. He's above Ashworth. So Blanc spent a very long time at PSG, 10 years in fact, before he went to work with INEOS about 18 months ago. Now Fabrizio has put something out there today about Ugarte and basically said, look, good possibilities for Ugarte to go as PSG want a new midfielder. But in relation to Manchester United, PSG and Manchester United have very strong relationships and have spoken about a number of players. The reason I mention this is because I think Ugarte is obviously somebody that we would factor in very, very high at the moment for Manchester United, and I think it's something that we can move on very, very quickly. The only real issue, I think, with Ugarte is what the price will be, because other clubs might be interested. Liverpool have been mentioned. But I think some people want to make out that Man United and PSG might not have a good relationship because PSG are owned by Qatar and Qatar tried to buy Manchester United. But I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's the case at all. I think that PSG and Manchester United do have good relationships. And so therefore, I don't think that this is going to be a problem with us doing business with them at all. Whether we're going to do any other business, I've heard Fabrizio say 2 or 3 times now, numerous players have been discussed between PSG and Manchester United. Well, we know that Mary Earps, the women's goalkeeper's gone to PSG, but what are these other deals and who could it be? So I think that it's quite interesting to see who that could be. James Plays Keys, welcome to the Members Club as well. Legend. Tony Marcial says, Mark, I think we will see some transfers of players we've never heard of this summer. Yeah, I read that one, haven't I? What about Vitina from PSG? Well, I think Vitina's done very, very well in the Euros. He's a good player. I've not heard anything about Manchester United and him. It's all about the structure, Mark, says Nicholas. Would you be happy with De Ligt as a signing? I don't know how much about him, but I'm concerned he is a player you'd not hear much about, says Marcus says. Well, I did a whole video last night in between the 2 Euros games last night talking about De Ligt and the fee, so maybe check that out. But I think for me, I want De Ligt. I'm happy with De Ligt. You look at that structure, you look at Dan Ashworth, you look at Barada, you look at Wilcox, you look at Blanc, you look at Brailsford, you look at Ten Hag. These are the people. When you're worried about a signing, because we're going to talk about the Zirkzee update from Bologna now. It's a verbal update from Bologna that he's leaving. So when you look at Zirkzee or De Ligt or Ugarte or Branthwaite, we as fans have got to jump into the new world. We can't sit there like we maybe did last year and go, oh, this is Ten Hag saying he wants this and the club are just letting it happen. That's not the world we live in now. If you are bringing in Zirkzee, Ten Hag has said yes, Barada has said yes, Ashworth has said yes, Wilcox has said yes, Brailsford has said yes, Blanc has said yes, and then Sir Jim Radcliffe and the Glazers have said yes, there's the money. So when we bring a player in now, whether it is De Ligt, whether it is Zirkzee, that's bounced around that boardroom. And Vivell will be in there now as well. Of course he will. He's going to be, the director of recruitment. So that every player that we go for now, or every player that we sell, that's bouncing around 6, 7, 8, maybe 9 experts' heads. And you go back to what Mourinho said a few years ago, it was basically him. I want to sell this player. I want to buy this player. And then you've got, bankers with a B saying no, whether it's Woodward, God, just think about what United have done in 6 months. It's an open goal. We all would have done it. I'll applaud INEOS and Sir Jim for doing it, but we all would have done it. Like it's an open goal to do it, but you've got to score that goal. Not everyone scores the open goal. But you look at United over the last 10 years, how we recruit people. We only had a director of football 3 years ago. We didn't even have a director of football. Even since then, you've got John Murtagh, who was a scout at Everton 12 years ago. You've got a banker in Woodward. You've got a banker in Arnold. And then you've got the manager of Man United. So Man United's recruitment committee, up until the last 6 months, was Joel Glazer, a banker in Woodward or Arnold, John Murtagh, and then the manager of Man United, whether that's Ollie, Mourinho, Van Gaal or Ten Hag. That was our recruitment committee. The manager, John Murtagh, a banker and Joel Glazer. We've now got the guy that reinvented Juventus and was at PSG on the board with Sir David Brailsford, Blanc and Brailsford. You've then got a guy who's had a massive part in Man City's success in Barada, Jason Wilcox, who's got a great reputation, Dan Ashworth with a great reputation, Vivell's come in now, and then you've got the manager. It's an amazing upgrade on how, when we go for a player now, we can have an opinion, but we've also got to know in our head that that decision has bounced around a lot of on-paper experts. So when we look at De Ligt, for me, there's a lot of me now that maybe a year ago I'd go, oh, this could be an expensive mistake. You know, who's the expert on this? I mean, Ten Hag's going to want him because he had him at Ajax, but what's the antidote? I think that, you know, with Mourinho, with Ten Hag, I trust them, but the same with Pep and Klopp. I think you've got to have an Arteta. You've got to have somebody who's the counter argument and can say no. And I think when you had Mourinho and you have Ten Hag, I don't trust the person that's saying yes or no. And that's the problem. I've got no problem with Ten Hag saying, let's get this player, or Mourinho saying, let's get this player. But you need the structure above them to have the expertise to say, I think you might be wrong on this one. Or I think we shouldn't pay that on that one. And we do have that now. We do have that. So, you know, if Ten Hag says, I want De Ligt, and it's a mistake, obviously Ten Hag gets the blame. But if Ten Hag says, oh, De Ligt, and then they look at him and they go, yeah, De Ligt, then you know that you might disagree with it as a fan, but you know it's gone through so many people. And at the moment, I have that huge element of trust because I think that the committee that we've built around this has an amazing CV and an amazing amount of people on paper. So if they want to go for De Ligt, that makes me even more confident about a player that I do like. I just worry about the financial package. So hopefully that makes sense. Is there any news on left backs? No, Callum, not at the moment. Right winger for Portugal, Conceição is a creative monster as well. That's from Sanpreet. Isha says, my 21st birthday yesterday. Been here since 300k. Thank you for the amazing content. Well, happy birthday for yesterday, mate. Absolutely fantastic. Hope you had a good day. Nicholas says, it's all about the structure. It's all about the structure. And Tony Marshall says, do you think we can get back into the transfer of Edison now Ashworth is there? I don't know where Edison's going, actually. I mean, I do like Edison, but if we're going for Ugarte, I don't see us going for Everton. Yeah. Sharon says, a CV does not make you the right choice. No, interviews and personality and relationships make you the right choice. And then, even then, you've got to come in and do a good job. That's just what recruitment's all about, Sharon. And maybe in a year's time, we sack Ashworth and we bring a new director of football in. Maybe in a year's time, Ten Hag's gone and we bring a new manager in. Maybe Blanc's gone and it might not work all the time, but it's about intent. Man United have never had the intent to bring the right people in anyway. We're now bringing the right people in on paper. They've got to deliver out there, of course. Mohammed says there's no news on outgoings. Well, there will be. There will be. 100% there will be. So Ugarte injury, absolutely fine. Let's give you the update on Zirkzee. So last night I read it. The director of Bologna has come out and said 99% Zirkzee will leave because of the clause that he has. He said that he's got a clause to leave, 34 million, 99% chance he's going to leave this football club. So that's from the director of Bologna. They're expecting him to go. Remember, late last week, they'd set an ultimatum of, make your mind up or go, which obviously Zirkzee didn't make his mind up to stay at Bologna. And effectively, there was some talk last week that he might stay at Bologna because a few people had said it might be good for him to stay in Bologna for another year. They're in the Champions League. Bologna basically admitted he's going to go. Interestingly as well, a story from Corriere della Bologna saying that Zirkzee to United is done. Plettigol has done an update that's a little bit different. You know what I think? I wouldn't quite go 99%, but I would go 90%. I really think we're going to get Zirkzee. I don't think that you hijack a deal where he was definitely going to go to AC Milan and miss out. But this is coming from Plettigol this morning. Ten Hag and the management of Zirkzee have held personal meetings in recent days. There's also been direct chats between Ten Hag and the striker, which we reported yesterday, actually. United willing to trigger the £34 million release clause. AC Milan are still in the race. Zirkzee is focused on the Euros, which is interesting, isn't it? Because I think with regards to the Euros, the Netherlands play tonight. Now, are we Team Romania? Because if he gets knocked out, then that will speed up a decision, won't it? I think the Netherlands probably will win, but it's only a few more days till they'll get knocked out in the quarterfinals if they play Austria. So I think that if Zirkzee's waiting for the Euros to be over to make a decision, I suppose it makes sense. Does that mean that De Ligt will wait as well? I don't think he needs to wait till the end of the Euros because he's not played 1 minute. I don't think he's going to play a minute in the Euros. It's been quite disappointing actually, because it's nice when you've got a player that you're looking at. I liked it when we got Zlatan that year when he was playing for Sweden in the Euros. It's quite nice to watch players that you're potentially going to buy. Yeah, I mean, look, there's a couple of days off after tonight. There's no quarterfinals until Friday and Saturday. So, could it escalate? I mean, I still stand by what I said yesterday. I was told that Zirkzee, here we go, is, very, 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 very close. I respect what Plettigol's saying, that Zirkzee might be waiting for the Netherlands to go out of the Euros before he makes his mind up. He doesn't actually have to, and I don't necessarily think he will do. But 99% sure he's going to leave Bologna. That's coming from the director of Bologna, and also reports around Bologna are saying that he's going to come to Manchester United. I think he will. I think he will be a Man United player. That's just where I stand on it. Ugarte, I'm still... Well, look, let's have a look at the hotometer. I think we probably need to update it a little bit. But yeah, I'm very happy with that at the moment. I think Zirkzee's a 9 out of 10. Very, very hot. Branthwaite, I would drop. I think that needs to drop down to probably a 5 at the moment, as I said last night on the update. Ugarte, I probably would keep him around a 7. I'm close to going to an 8, but I probably would keep him there. De Ligt, for me, would definitely be an 8. Yeah, I'd put De Ligt as, an 8 at the moment. Zirkzee a 9, and Ugarte's probably getting close to being an 8. But I'd drop Branthwaite down to a 5, because I think with Branthwaite, quite rightly, and I don't know whether any of you disagree with me, but I think with Branthwaite, the price that Everton want to charge is too much. And look, I'm not here to make... I don't care about Everton. I've got no interest in Everton. I don't support Everton. If Everton are playing a team I don't like, then, up the Everton. But Everton against Man United in a transfer, we're Man United, they're Everton. You know what? There's a massive part of me that would love Everton to dig their feet in and say, we want £70 million, and Man United to go, guess what? Up yours. We're signing an Nacho for 45. I love to see that. I will love to see Man United go and do that, because I would love, and it's nothing personal against Everton. Everton fans might get burnt by that, but it's not Everton. It could be Leicester. It could be bloody Swindon. I don't care. I would love Man United, after 10 years of this, to go to a football club that tries to take us for a ride and go, up yours. We don't do that shit anymore. We're buying this lad for £25 million cheaper. Good luck in trying to rip someone else off, but we ain't that club. And we do need to do that. We've mentioned that a few times over the last couple of weeks. We're going to have to burn a couple of transfers to get our reputation back. Because it's no point having Christopher Vivell or Dan Ashworth or Omar Barada or Jason Wilcox or Jean-Claude Blanc. There's no point having those people if every player that you want, you just sit there for weeks going, what can we do? What can we do? All right, we'll give you 68 million instead of 70. That's not what we're bringing these people in for. We're bringing these people in to go, we really want Jared Branthwaite. Can we get that deal done? And one of those people goes, maybe Barada, they ain't moving. They're a Premier League club. Premier League clubs are rich. They ain't moving. They're not going to move from 60, 70 million. And we shouldn't pay that. So we might want that player, but this is football, and there are other players out there. and there is this player here I can get for 40 million plus 15 in add-ons, which is way cheaper, who actually, there's a tiny bit of a risk because he's never played in the Premier League, but might be a better player. And that's the deal we're going to do. And it's cheerio Everton. And that's what you're bringing these experts in for. You're not bringing them in to go and do the same thing you've done for the last 10 years, which is, you know, oh, please. Oh, please, please, please. But please, though. But please. Oh, please, though. Please, though. You know, we're not here to do that. There's no point bringing these experts in if you're just going to hang around Goodison Park, please, you know, and then give them what they want. We will have to walk away from some deals, and I'm completely relaxed about that, and I think most of you are as well. But what I will say is I do want us to sign Branthwaite. It's nothing personal against Everton, and it's nothing personal against Branthwaite. I think he's a good player. I understand why we want to sign him. It ticks a lot of boxes, but if they're not going to move on what I believe is an extortionate price, then the transfer market is in the centre-back area is full of other choices. So, look, nobody said it'd be easy. And it's not, you don't just have a magic wand. You know, other clubs won't go, oh my God, Man United have got Christopher Vivell. They've got Ashworth. They've got Barada. They've got Blanc. Better knock 50% off the transfer fee. They'll go, no, all right. They want to play big boy games. No, we're standing by what we've got. They're not coming anymore. Well, where have they gone? They've just gone and bought someone else. Shit. You know, so that's what you need to do. That's what we need to do. With Elise going to Bayern, do you think we will go for another winger? Also love the content, says Jordan. I think that with regards to somebody like Elise, who we clearly wanted, I think a winger is still definitely on Manchester United's radar. Of course it is. And I think that the interesting thing is what type of winger do we go for? Do we go for a £50 million player like Elise, who was actually going to be more than that, or do we go for somebody who is maybe a little, does Dan Ashworth come in and say, I know about this winger from the Championship for 15 million? Or does Vivell come in and say, I know about this winger from Austria who's, going to be the next big thing? Like, they will, do you go for someone like Nico Williams, says Thundering? Exactly. Or do you just not bother buying a winger? So it's exciting times because, somebody mentioned the left back. We do need to bring in a left back. I mean, I'll tell you what, I'm stressed. Luke Shaw's running around in an England top. He's obviously going to play against Switzerland. He's not played since February. Does that go well? Or is that going to be I've rushed back too quickly? I mean, somebody said to me yesterday, I won't worry about Luke Shaw. He's been taking his time, making sure he's ready to come back. And I'm like, oh yeah, I won't worry about Luke Shaw. For me, one of the best left backs in Europe, a player I really like. I won't worry about the fact that he's, definitely taken his time to come back. He's not really running out of time to play in this tournament. So yeah, I'm sure he's took every precaution and he won't come back till he's ready. Of course, we all know he's being rushed back for this game. Of course he is. And we also know that in his last two games for Manchester United, I think one of them was Luton and maybe one of them was Wolves. I think he came off in both those games injured, didn't he? So Luke Shaw's the sort of guy that, wakes up in the morning feeling fit and healthy, eats his breakfast and, pulled his hamstring. So I'm worried about that. Of course, I really like the player. I want him to be our left back, but we all know that we need to bring in a left back. Malacia hasn't played in a year. Who that left back's going to be is quite exciting. Would have been nice to keep Amrabat and Ugarte, says Josh. Well, I don't think there's any decision made on Amrabat yet. What I was told yesterday is that with regards to exits, some of those decisions haven't been made yet because Dan Ashworth wants to get his feet under the table with Ten Hag and the others and just make sure they know what they're doing. United are open to offers, but the transfer window hasn't really clicked yet, has it? And I think that there are deals that can be done, and we've mentioned Lindelof, Wan-Bissaka. I mean, look, there's an update on Wan-Bissaka this morning actually. Sky Sports are saying that Wan-Bissaka is one of a number of right backs that West Ham are interested in. United are not actively looking to sell, but doing due diligence in that position, given Wan-Bissaka is in the final year of his contract. No talks currently over extending deal. I mean, that's actually not. I don't know whether that's directly on Sky, but it's coming in from Dharmesh on Sky. Look, no disrespect to Sky, whoever their journalists are, but I'm confused by what Sky Sports News is now, to be honest with you. There was a time, a long time ago, I mean, we're talk about a decade, but, we are here to react to the news on the news show, and it would be irresponsible of me to say that, the Daily Star transfer news is up there with David Ornstein. It's not. We put weight onto different outlets based on years of experience and knowledge, and we all do that. When I see that update from Dharmesh on Sky that Man United are not looking to sell Wan-Bissaka, but they're doing due diligence, but they're not doing a contract talk and he's only got a year left, it's just riddled with inaccuracies. We are looking to sell Wan-Bissaka. We've been looking to sell Wan-Bissaka for probably 18 months on and off. And what happens is he sometimes plays in the team when we've got an injury and he plays well and we're like, well, we won't sell him. And that's been the story of Wan-Bissaka for pretty much 18 months. He's only got a year left on his contract. We either got to give him a new one in the next few weeks or we've got to sell him. And that's the fact. And we're looking to sell him. And also, Aaron Wan-Bissaka himself wants to go because he wants to play first-team football. So he's very much up for sale this summer. And that update reads to me like, oh, there is interest, but Man United aren't actively looking to sell. And yet, I know for a fact that we are. And you know for a fact that we are as well. But honestly, I turn Sky Sports on every now and again and I'm confused with what I'm watching. It used to be a guy in a yellow tie and a suit talking with authority. It's now a bunch of people who look like the dads at Seb's school who are trying to dress like they're in their 20s when they're actually in their late 30s. It's all T-shirts with an overshirt and a pair of white trainers. It confuses me. And then they're doing sound bites about things they've got no knowledge on. So I think I wouldn't say Sky Sports News coverage on transfers has fell off. I think it's flatlining. And it's very, very rare that there's an update on there that you go, oh, that's interesting. Because I think they're struggling for, take away Premier League rights from Sky. Who's watching it? And so from a transfer point of view, it's muddled. You know what I think Sky is? I just think it's trying to be what we are. I think it's an opinion piece. I don't think they have any experts. I don't think they have any idea of what's going on. I think they log on to, some aggregator and start taking notes. And I don't think their opinions are even accurate. I mean, I don't need to get on WhatsApp and say, Aaron, what's happening? Or, getting agents or Fabrizio. I don't need to do that because I'll tell you what's happening with Aaron Wan-Bissaka. He's for sale. And if we get the right price for him, and there's a viable replacement, we will do a deal. But if nobody gives us a good price for Wan-Bissaka and there's not a good replacement, we may well say to Wan-Bissaka, do you want to sign a new contract on reduced wages? I don't see that happening. I think United and Wan-Bissaka are actively looking for a move, and that is why he's been linked to Turkey and Premier League clubs. And he is a good right back, and he will leave Manchester United. In my opinion, I'd say if you look at that at the Calder meter, Wan-Bissaka is a 5 there, but that was done a few weeks ago. I'd still say 5 is about right, but I'd say we're probably moving up to where Eriksen is with a 7 for the same reason. I think Eriksen wants to play football, and I think Wan-Bissaka will as well. Are we making any progress with Ruud's deal? Says Jeet. I think in relation to Ruud van Nistelrooy, Rene Heck and Erik ten Hag's new contract, it feels like we're getting a deal a day at the moment. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get a Wednesday or Thursday drop for that because, sometimes I've played the game and I think sometimes with the Euros, there is a reluctance from football clubs to do too much when the Euros are on. But we've obviously got this Wednesday, Thursday thing going on. So maybe we'll get something then. But Ruud van Nistelrooy, Rene Heck and a new contract for Ten Hag are done. It's just when it's announced, really. There's a bit of a Fabrizio thing that I hadn't given you actually from last night. Manchester United have received the green light from Ugarte. United have also received the green light from PSG in terms of the French side being open to selling Ugarte. Now it's up to United to make a financial bid. I think I really like Ugarte. I can't guarantee that he'll be a success at Manchester United, but I just get the feeling that there's just something, Gabriel Heinze was a left back we had at Man United, Argentinian. Some of you might remember him. Honestly, I loved him. I think a lot of people did. But was he brilliant for Man United? He was probably okay. But we loved him because of that South American bulldog, bull, whatever. He just had that thing. Even Marcus Rojo, who actually was probably a flop. I mean, Rojo was probably a flop, but we loved him, again, because of that South American brutality, hard work, etc. A fighter, says Himansh. Passion, yeah. So, Heinze, even Anderson, the Brazilian, was loved. There's just something about that area of the world and footballers that they're easy to relate to because at their core, their personalities are so similar to football fans. We are passionate. We are fighters. We are irrational. We are, all or nothing. And we're very protective of our football club. And I think, it's wrong to be stereotypical, but a lot of South American players have that. And the reason I think they have that is because South America is still quite poverty driven. There's still a lot of poverty in South America, and a lot of these footballers come from poor backgrounds. I remember speaking to Paul Ince about this years ago, and he said, when you look at people like myself and, Steven Gerrard and Wayne Rooney and people like that, they've come from poor backgrounds and they've got that fighter in them. Whereas the modern footballer, it's not necessarily like that now. You're in academies from 6 years of age, and you can start getting good money from very young age as well. You're not cleaning the senior striker's boots at 17 on 40 quid a week. But maybe in South America that aspiration and fight is still there, or maybe it's just a cultural thing. But they've definitely got it, and I think with Ugarte, you see that in him, like you do with many players from that area of the world. And that's just something that's not guaranteed with any signing that Man United make. How many times have we bought a player for 60, 70, 80 million pounds? They put on a United shirt and they've got, all the bloody fight of a wet fart. I think with someone like Ugarte, and we've seen it with Lisandro Martinez, you just know you're not going to have to worry about passion and fight. And look, Rojo was a flop, but I'd never knock his passion and fight in a Man United shirt. Eric Bailly, obviously not from that area of the world. Ander Herrera, not from that area of the world. What was Eric Bailly and Ander Herrera in relation to their career at Man United? You'd argue that Bailly was maybe a flop and Ander Herrera did reasonably well, but they weren't necessarily legends. But you look back on both players with a warm feeling because they were fighters and they were passionate. And I think we do need to bring that in. Martinez is such a massive part of that football club because of his passion, the butcher. You don't want a passion merchant, Abdul, of course. You don't want that. I mean, but, I just have a good feeling about bringing people in like Ugarte, because I think he brings in that much-needed passion and fighting spirit that we do need. And we've got some impressionable young players. Garnacho's got it in him. Mainoo's got it in him. Rasmus has got it in him. Martinez has got it in him. Bruno's got it in him. I mean, Delot last night, did you see Ronaldo crying? Ronaldo's the captain, one of the greatest players that's ever played the game. It's only half-time in extra time. He's missed a penalty. They're potentially going to get knocked out by Slovenia, who are the underdog, and the captain's crying because he's missed a penalty. It's Delot hugging him and telling him to get himself together. He's a Man United player. And whether Delot's ever going to be one of the best right-backs in the world, whether he's going to be our backup right-back, who knows? But the personality thing is very, very important, and we've lacked that personality at Man United for a very long time, where it used to be a given. You know, I'd look through a United team and I'd go, Schmeichel's got it, Irwin's got it, Neville's got it, you know, Stam's got it, Keane, Scholes, Beckham. We need to get back to that, because in fairness to Man City, they may be a mercenary, soulless club, but in relation to their Rodris and their De Bruynes and their Fodens and their Stones and the Diaz and the Haalands, they've got it. They have got it. We've had a United stand tweet on Rashford, apparently. Let me have a quick look on that. Rashford not up for sale, I would imagine, but I've got nothing to do with it. Manchester Evening News. United sources insist their preference would be to keep Rashford and help him to regain his form. However, the club have not dismissed the possibility of allowing Rashford to leave after his relationship deteriorated with Ten Hag last season. I'm sorry that it's in the Manchester Evening News again, because unfortunately they're going to get both barrels here. His relationship with Ten Hag deteriorated. Would this be the manager that kept picking him when everybody said he should be dropped? Would this be the manager that picked him in the FA Cup final and dropped Rasmus, and everybody would have dropped Rashford? I don't know what this deterioration with the manager is talking about. It's a nonsense, and it needs calling out. Now, the Manchester Evening News have got a long history over the last few months of going for our manager. And it's not just one journalist. In general, they've been trying to get our manager out because that's their personal opinion. Be very, very careful about the deterioration of the relationship between Marcus Rashford and Ten Hag, because I cover Man United every day, whether it's a transfer window or whether it's, actual matches going on. And Erik Ten Hag, by you and by me, we have constantly said Marcus Rashford can have no hard feelings with Erik Ten Hag because he has probably given him more opportunities than he deserved last season. And he started him in the FA Cup final when most of us wouldn't have done it. It was a very, very easy front three you could have gone with, which was Ahmad, Rasmus and Garnacho. And neither Ahmad or Rasmus started, but Rashford did. So the deterioration of relationship is complete and utter nonsense. And again, it's just another way to try, in a positive time, to build a wedge between two things at Man United to allow the toxicity to seep in. We've just announced Christopher Vivell. We've just got Ten Hag as our manager. We've got lots of positive things ongoing, and yet a story comes out about, a deterioration in the relationship between Marcus Rashford and Erik Ten Hag. And look, I think Rashford will be here next year, and I know Ten Hag will be here next year, and I don't want to go into a positive season next year with an angle for the press to go, oh, here's a wedge, let's divide. Marcus Rashford has come off social media for a month to focus on himself. If he's doing that to be a Man United player next year and he scores his goals, happy days. Erik Ten Hag's going to get a 3-year contract with a proper structure above him. We were trying to build success. If we're selling Marcus Rashford, we're going to sell Marcus Rashford. That's fine. But let's not try and go into a new season pretending that Ten Hag and Rashford hate each other, because that's just going to cause a negative. And I see absolutely no behaviour from Erik Ten Hag to suggest that he doesn't like Marcus Rashford. In fact, quite the opposite. I think Ten Hag has probably overprotected him and overcompensated. When Rashford did the Belfast thing, Ten Hag picked him less than a week later. Many of you said Rashford should have been suspended for 2 weeks for going out on the piss when he should have been training. Ten Hag started him against Wolves 6 days later. So Ten Hag has done absolutely everything for Rashford and actually took him from a shit season to a great season when he first came in. If anybody's got a problem with anybody, and there's any truth in that story, which I don't think there is, it can only be from Rashford's side. And why would Rashford be telling the Manchester Evening News that? So, bullshit. There's nothing that Ten Hag has done towards Rashford that is, deteriorating the relationship. If Marcus Rashford wants to go, he should go. But he's got to find someone to buy him. I personally think they'll stay. And I think that's the PR that we need to work on. But we need to call this bollocks out. We've just spent 45 minutes talking about positive change at Man United, and then a story drops in about deterioration of relationship between Ten Hag and Rashford, which I translate as guesswork that Rashford doesn't like Ten Hag because he had a bad season. It's certainly not coming from Ten Hag's side. It can't be. He's picked him in the fucking FA Cup final. I like Rashford. I wouldn't have started him in the FA Cup final. Akil says, Anana, Ugarte, Martinez, Mainu, Bruno, Delo and Højlund. Spine of United next season. British media covering up for Southgate is laughable, disgusting, says Akil. Again, I would say I forget that Mason Mount is a Man United player, which I think is a good thing. I don't think we're going to sell Wan-Bissaka because we have more important positions to focus on. We don't have to look for a right back right now. Well, Al, we do need to do something with Wan-Bissaka because he's only got a year left on his contract. So if we're going to keep him, are we going to let another player run down his contract, which would be stupid with Wan-Bissaka because he definitely has a value. Lee says, Erik Ten Hag has publicly backed and shown his backing for Rashford from day one. It's clear to me it's the Manchester Evening News yet again. Yeah, well, look, they need to say what they think. Of course, they're entitled to their opinion. It's the media, but it's just very obvious that their disdain for Ten Hag isn't going to go anywhere, is it? And you know, let's lay the challenge down to them. What is the deterioration of the relationship with Marcus Rashford and Ten Hag then? Because the last thing I saw, Marcus Rashford was crying at the end of a FA Cup win, and Ten Hag had picked him. So what's the deterioration here? I don't know what it is. I think they've had a few bumps last season, of course, but Ten Hag has always tried to pick Rashford and has always said what a good player he is. So I don't understand what the deterioration is at all. Thanks everyone for watching. We will call it out because I think there is a positivity, and we've been negative in ourselves over the last 10 years. Of course we have. But when we've always said, it's a bit like England at the moment, and everyone, all the England players moaning about the criticism. You're playing shit, you're going to get criticised. When you play well, you'll get praised. Man United are getting a lot of praise at the moment for a lot of things that they're doing, and that's the right way. Negativity needs to be called out as an agenda as it actually is, because we don't want any of that shit. Like, we're trying to positively change mistakes of the last 10 years. We don't need any of this shit. And, you know, no one wants to buy Rashford. So why try and build a wedge between Rashford and the manager? Because you want to cause toxicity. Yeah, call it out. Thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you smash a like on the video and subscribe. I'm on the 2 o'clock today because Beth's gone on holiday. Well, I said to her, look, you know what? If we get a few here we goes at 2 o'clock, you've missed out. But no, everyone deserves a break. And I'll be on the 2 o'clock today. Should be 7 o'clock tonight, but of course, Euros as well. But of course, if anything breaks, we'll go live anyway. Take care, everyone. I'll speak to you later. Thanks for watching. Smash a like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Said that.